Hello there, everybody! Welcome back to another episode of A Brief History of. I'm your host, Dale Treadway. And as you know, we are no longer on SoundCloud anymore. We are finally here in YouTube. So, this is episode 10, and episodes 1 through 9, for people that have not, been on my SoundCloud to see them, I will leave a link in the description down below. So, anyway, guys, let's get started with today's episode. So, actually, I forgot. Before we do that, we're going to need to talk about one quick change real quick. This is the biggest change that's going to happen with episode 10 in terms of content. And in order to kind of help with content, we're going to be trying to answer a question. This is going to be our topic question for the episode, and this question is what we're going to be trying to answer during the entirety of the show. Or of the episode. Let's get started with today's episode. And today's episode is a brief history of storytelling. And the question is, what makes Star Wars such a good classical movie? That's today's topic question. So, let's get started with this. What we're going to be using is going to be Joseph Campbell's book, A Hero with a Thousand Faces. I suggest you guys really do read if you want to get a little bit more into this kind of topic, because it can really help build your own stories in order to help them be better. And in fact, the reason I chose Star Wars for this is because we're going to be comparing Star Wars and the book and see how they're similar. And it should be really, really similar. We'll try to also go with other as well, but fun fact, the actual writer, George Lucas, actually based Star Wars writing off of A Hero with a Thousand Faces. He used all of the techniques in there in order to help write his story. So, anyway, let's get started. So, let's start off with the main character. The main character's archetype is considered the hero. And the hero is more or less human. And this is so we, as the audience, can feel with that person. We understand what they're going through. The hero represents the reality in either the movie, the show, just a story that your father is telling you as you were sleeping. This is where the reality comes from. And we normally like this person because we try to be in that person's shoes, and it's the author's job to try to make the character, in this sense, to be what Joseph Campbell said was classical and good, was trying to make the character be the audience, and that's kind of what the hero is. It's a human inside of this great giant wreck, and we try to live through that. So, let's get on to the next topic. So, we have the wise old man is the next archetype, and this is the guide or the teacher for the hero. If it's in Star Wars, this person is obviously Obi-Wan Kenobi. And this is the big, important character in these types. And here's where we could try to get a little bit more into not just saying, oh no, it's just Star Wars. If you want to go with anime, we'll go with that. My Hero Academia, you could say that the wise old man is All for One. If you wanted to go with The Lord of the Rings, that would be Gandalf. We have all sorts of these different people that can help support Joseph Campbell's, book, and say that all of these classical stuff fits in these. And again, not every single one tries to fit with the feeling that the Hero with a Thousand Faces was going for. Next, and the last character archetype that we will be discussing is the hero, or the hero's enemy, the actual enemy, the actual villain of the story. And this is the biggest challenge, the biggest obstacle that the person has to go over, and the biggest defeat. In this one, it would be Darth Vader in Star Wars. It could be All for One in the My Hero Academia. It could be Frieza in Dragon Ball. It could be Sauron in Lord of the Rings. That's just how it is. And those are the characters that we can find in the archetypes. Now, of course, these are the 3 main archetypes that you can find in any of the other ones. If you guys want to see the other archetypes, you guys can do research, and you guys could read Joseph Campbell's book. I do suggest going through it. So next, we're going to go into the other part, which is the actual journey itself. So a hero's journey, which is the basic topic of A Hero with 1,000 Faces, talks about the 3 acts that each story goes through. It goes through Act 1, which is basically the ordinary world. Then it goes to Act 2, which is the magic world, where, the hero is not from, and he doesn't really recognize this place. And then the third one, which is back to his home. And we'll get to how he gets there in a minute. So, again, we're going to be using Star Wars to discuss how this actually works in order for you guys to help understand. So, number 1, we'll go with the ordinary world. Now, the ordinary world is where the person is from, and this would be Luke's farm. This would be his home, and this is where the person is from. And this is our ground basis of what is normal for this world. And a lot of times, it's even normal for us. For example, we wouldn't expect, you mean to tell me that there are these people that can levitate things with this thing called the Force? It's unrealistic. And normally, the ordinary world is trying to seem unordinary as possible for a new world that you're not actually in, but have its kind of physics basically be your world, to where you make it to where, if I was in this world, my life wouldn't change that much in terms of how I see reality, is basically what it is. Next, we have the call to adventure. Now, the call to adventure isn't always the actual call. So unlike in Lord of the Rings, to where it's actually, oh, no, you have to take this ring, that's it, that's the entire story. Not all of it has to do that. In Star Wars, what makes it more closely to this than Lord of the Rings is that the call to adventure isn't actually the sole adventure itself. It's not going on to the Death Star. It starts off with trying to find R2-D2. R2-D2 running away is the call to adventure. Calling him to lead his ordinary world, to go and try to find R2-D2. So, it's not always exactly what the entire thing is going to be about. It'll start off with something simple that will cause him to get out of his comfort zone, and then snap, something happens. In this instance, it's the meeting of the wise old man, or meeting Obi-Wan. When he meets Obi-Wan, Obi-Wan gives him a new task. Come with me to Alderaan. And he decides to go with him to Alderaan, and he learns what his father did, because Luke has never known his father, and he's always wanted to basically kind of know his father in a way. I mean, this is another part with that reality point. Anybody would want to know their father if they never met them, or if they have no idea what they're like. They would at least want to know. And that's kind of what Luke is going through, and that's really his reason to want to go with Obi-Wan. So next we have Act 2. And Act 2 is going to be crossing the threshold. This starts Act 2, going from the ordinary world to space, which would be in this case. And this is where your reality is blown. It's completely blown. It's nowhere near similar to the other one. The desert was still technically similar, but it wasn't his farm. It wasn't Luke's farm when he went out to try to find R2-D2. He crossed the threshold when he flew off of Tatooine. And that's what the first part of Act 1 is. Next is Meeting of Allies, which would be Han Solo. Now, this is where it kind of gets a little bit off, but they still meet allies along the way. They still do. But this is where it's a little off, because they needed to have an ally before they could leave. So he kind of changed it a little bit there. So we could technically say Meeting of the Allies, then exiting, but it's not necessarily the traditional way. But it's not bad either. Next, we have the Dragon's Lair. Them going to the Dragon's Lair fun. Them going to the dragon's lair and basically them trying to... The lights caught me off guard. Hold on. Them going to the dragon's lair in this one would be landing on the Death Star. And the reason they call it the dragon's lair is because just like when you slay knights, this is the ultimate ending. You go over there and you're trying to battle the villain, and this is where you try to defeat the villain. And the Death Star would be the dragon's lair. Sorry about that. I'm not used to this being here. I'm used to in a kind of like in a room with a stand mic, so my bad. The last one is Act 3, which is Celebration. It's the shortest of the acts, but it travels back to the ordinary world. Or it at least makes it to where the hero is now what he wanted to be, and he's now in his world now. His world may or may not be the same as the ordinary world that we used to know, what he used to know. It might be different, but it is at least his new world, his new reality. And that's what Act 3 is. It establishes his new world. Now, real quick, we are a little bit over time, but we're not too much. So, the overall, what is our answer? What makes Star Wars such a great classical movie? The answer is in the journey. The journey that captures us in a world of an ordinary place that then takes us to a new world that we don't even know ourselves. And it really helps us go with, man, I can really relate to this person. And it's the easiest way to make us feel like we could be this person. And that's what really makes Star Wars so great. Because, and with the hero's journey, really also, it gives us the easiest way to make us feel like we could be this person. And that is the reason why Star Wars is such a great episode, is such a great show. Anyway, guys, that'll have to do it for today's episode. I will see you in the next episode, and in the next episode, we'll be doing a brief history of football. And it's going to be kind of our own little, Super Bowl kind of special. With episode 10 kind of happening, I kind of had to change up a few things because I didn't want it to be with a guest, because we will have a guest in the next episode. I just wanted it to be me, kind of a deal to celebrate the episode 10. So, anyway, guys, I will see you in that football episode. Bye-bye.